everyone. My name's Janelle Riley. I'm an editor of Variety. Thank you so much for coming out tonight to see this movie on the screen. Yeah. Is everyone seeing it for the first time? Just curious. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Great. Okay. Well, I'm so pleased to welcome tonight's guest who adapted the screenplay from the Stephen King novella. He is also the writer-director of the film Strange Darling and Outlaws and Angels. Please welcome JT Mollner. Thank you so much for being here. Congratulations on a fantastic movie.
Thank you.
Whenever I have someone as accomplished as you, I actually love to go back to the beginning. And since we're speaking specifically about writing here, what was your first job as a writer? The first time you felt you could call yourself a professional, or the first time you got paid for it?
I was, I wanted to direct when I moved to LA, but I had been like kind of a failed novelist. I always was writing since I was a little kid, and short stories, and I majored in English when I went to school, and so it was kind of, writing's always been like a compulsion and a need, but it makes me miserable, kind of. but if I don't do it, I'm miserable as well. So, but directing makes me really happy, like even when it's stressful, So I wasn't setting out. I remember saying, I'm writing so I can direct, and I'll gladly take a job writing, but I wasn't setting out to be a screenwriter for other people. But I did get a job writing, maybe about a year before I made Outlaws and Angels, and it was a guy I met. I was living in an apartment on the beach, or near the beach in Santa Monica, near the Palisades, and I remember going to Gladstone's, and I was watching a football game or something on Sunday at Gladstone's, and I met this really drunk guy who said he was a movie producer, and said he was really rich, and he lived in Malibu, and he said, I'm going to make this movie, and I need to find a writer, and I said, I could do it for you, and this guy paid me $2,000 to write a really horrible concept of his, and I finished it, and I'm really glad he never got it made. But that is, I framed that check because I was really, really excited.
Well, you didn't cash it?
That I did cash it.
Okay.
I framed it.
Well, that's good. They send it back to you.
You get it returned. But I framed that check. I was really excited about it. I didn't have an agent yet, or else I would have cut you in. I promise, Charlie.
Yeah, you see how nervous he got?
Nick, I would have cut you guys in. Actually, I did have a manager. I think I did offer to cut Nick in, but he didn't take it. And then I had another person. Like those were kind of the first few writing jobs. But my first actual professional writing work was for my first film, Outlaws and Angels, and it was about writing and directing it. I would say the first time I ever felt like I was writing as a writer, as a screenwriter for a living, was writing for Francis Lawrence on this. Yeah, I mean, it was my first studio job, and as I started directing things, like I said, I was really enjoying that, and I wasn't setting out to be a screenwriter only. But my experience on Strange Darling, my most recent film, was so intense that I felt like I needed to be hospitalized after it was over. And so Roy Lee, who's one of the producers on it, said, "What do you want to do next?" And I said, well, believe it or not, I want to keep working, but I don't want to direct something right away. I'd like to write something for a great director. And he said, "Well, what about The Long Walk?" And that's what happened.
Because you're a Stephen King fan going way back, I heard.
Yeah, fanatic. I he's informed so much of my style. I've been reading his book since I was 7 years old. I got a copy of Carrie at a bookstore in Ojai when I was in second grade, and I made it through over the course of like a year. I got sent to the principal's office.
Oh my God!
I had it in class.
It
was
for The Shining, for having The Shining in fifth grade.
This is a very kismet moment. Did you get in trouble?
They did. They called my parents in, and they were like, "I don't know what the problem is." Yeah.
That's good. What did your parents say?
That's what they said. They're like, "I don't know."
Oh,
what the
they
problem
said they don't know
is."
what the problem is.
Yeah, my dad gave me the book, so.
That's good parents. That's fantastic. I love that you had that experience too.
Yes.
Some people don't get it that like being a little kid in the 80s, like taking the that book to school, it was like having obscenity on the desk, and it was for adults. And I remember them sending me up there, and they called my mom in, and she just said like, listen, I don't let my kid watch rated R films. She didn't until I was 12 or 13, and I think that repression turned me into who I am as a writer. But she said, I don't let him watch rated R movies, but I'm never going to tell my kid not to read. So it was a really important experience, and it made me, now I just appreciate my parents so much for that, or my mom so much for that. So The Shining's a good reason to go to the principal's office too.
I can't even think, like, of all the books, that one's pretty tame. I think somebody had read it and put like a post-it note that said like, read the scene on page 248, and there was something sexual on it, and that's why.
Yeah, there's a lot of, there was a lot in Carrie that I probably shouldn't have been reading at that age, but I didn't really get it either. The whole opening of that book is something you shouldn't be reading as a kid, but yeah, I became a constant reader of Stephen King, and he usually releases books in September. His birthday is September 21st, and we share a birthday. And
I'm not even gonna say.
is your birthday September 21st?
It might be. That's too weird.
Is it really? Wow. I really have to listen to the sign from earlier that we were talking about.
Libra, Virgo, cusp.
You said something earlier that like helped me make a very difficult decision in my life.
Do I get 20%?
Mandela effect.
As long as
your
Charlie
agent got
and
sweaty
Nick will
again,
give me, no, that's it's pretty wild, right? Me, you, and Stephen King, we all share the same birthday, and so he comes out. I know it's kind of creepy, right? But it's great too. And he, I always get his books in September and read them, and I think I've read every book of his except for the Tommyknockers and Cycle of a Werewolf, which he sent me actually. So I'm gonna read that soon.
What a flex! Did you hear that?
Yeah, he didn't know I hadn't read it when he sent me these books because I was writing something of his, but I've never met him in person. But he became a really important part of my development as a creative, not just a writer. I just loved how, even though his books are very plot and concept heavy, he doesn't outline, and he doesn't worry so much about like hitting things at certain times. He just follows his heart as a writer, and sometimes that works for people, sometimes it doesn't. With Stephen King, it tends to work because sometimes he'll kind of deviate from the plot for 100 pages, and but it'll maybe tell some backstory or do something, and even though the 100 pages don't really directly affect the narrative, they make you know and care for the characters so much, and he draws the characters so well that the stakes rise. And he's the person who taught me that action, violence, all that, like none of it is exciting if you don't know the characters and there are no stakes. And so I really appreciated that. There's in his series The Dark Tower, there's an entire book called Wizard and Glass that flashes back to a romance, and it's one of the most beautiful books in the series. It is the most beautiful book in the series, and none of it moves the story forward. It just the whole book it helps you get to know the characters more, and then you care more going forward. So I think there were some changes to The Long Walk, obviously for those constant readers here who know about it, but I felt like with every change we wanted just to stay in the spirit of Stephen King and developing those characters as much as possible, making you care about them, and hopefully we achieve that. But yeah, he's meant so much to me. So I'm not really. I have so many of my own ideas that I've never been drawn to IP and adaptations. It's not like the thing for me. I get sent stuff and I'm like, this is a great idea, but I feel like I might have a better one, But I've always wanted to adapt Stephen King because I felt like it's just a really good fit because of my connection to him growing up.
Speaking of changes, I'm so excited to be talking with people who've seen the movie. You made some big changes that I absolutely love. Do you want to talk about the ending?
Does Lionsgate want us to talk? Like, what are we supposed to?
Yeah.
Are we not supposed to spoil?
They just saw the movie.
Yeah, everybody.
Yeah. So in
good. Okay.
in the short story, somebody else wins.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and
I love this ending.
I'm so glad you liked it,
Oh.
and I hope you all liked it. I'm really sorry to anybody who's married to the original. Thank you.
What was going on, having read what I thought was a novella, but I guess is a novel, I
Well, it's a novella for Stephen King, you know, because so many of his
exactly
books are like 1,000 pages.
Yeah.
It's not, in your defense, and everybody's used to it, it's not, it's a short novel. It's
Yeah.
not a long novel, but for an hour and a half, 2 hour movie, it's a lot of material.
I had a giant chemistry book in college, and I put a fake cover on it that said 18 novels I wrote last season by Stephen King, and I still remember it so vividly,
Oh my
like
God.
carrying that thing around.
What's your favorite one?
Actually, I love
The
Stand.
Long Walk.
Well, apparently I haven't read The Long Walk. I love The Stand. Yeah. And then
Stand's
Skeleton
great.
Crew actually turned me off to him for 10 years.
Really?
Yeah, I did the classic, threw the book across the room and was like, nope.
Really?
Yeah, it was so disturbing.
Wow, which short story was it? Do you know?
The one where he
That's great.
self-cannibalizes.
Oh, I love that one. Yeah.
Nope, can't do it. Can't do it. But it was interesting because I remember like thinking, well, I know how this ends. And as the movie was going on, I was like, that ending wouldn't be honest. Like the honest ending is basically how it turned out. And so I was so pleased because I do think that like when you're making something, it sort of tells you what it is, But still, would you have been willing to have changed it back? You said you would, but thank God they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, this was a really special experience, and it was unique. I don't know if it'll happen again, because I went into this and I told Francis I wanted to be a good soldier. Like when I met him and I realized I wanted to make sure that he wanted to make the type of movie I'd be good at writing. So when we first met, I was afraid, does he want to make some kind of PG version of this or something? And I knew I wouldn't be even good at that. Like I don't do well when I'm writing within guardrails, so to speak. So I didn't think I'd be a good fit for that. But when he wanted to make a movie that went all the way, I knew I was the right person for him, and I was excited about the movie he was going to make. But everything else, once I signed on, I knew that it's a Francis Lawrence movie. And if he said, like, you have to change, Pete to an elephant, like I would have done it. I would have argued a little bit, but I would have done it because it's my job to write the movie Francis wants to direct. I truly believe that, and so I got really lucky in this case because most of the suggestions I made were taken, and we were on the same page, pretty much the whole way. And so to answer your question, I 100% would have changed it. I would have done the original ending if that's what Francis wanted, but he really believed in this. So even though I had the first impetus and I pitched it to Francis, we talked about this together, and the director of this movie is very much responsible for the ending of this movie, for better or for worse, and I'm really happy with it.
I was the biggest fan of Strange Darling, and I'm going to assume most people have seen it, but if not, yes.
Thank you.
Pulled out of order in a really creative way that has you feeling one way about a character, then realizing you were wrong, and then realizing maybe you weren't wrong, going back and forth. And I was curious, when I saw you were adapting this, I was like, oh, I wonder if he's going to splice up the narrative. Was there ever any temptation to... I love that it's so straightforward. Although there's flashbacks.
Yeah, I hope I'm not, like, I don't... even though I think if I did that more than once, intentionally, I'd be kind of gimmicky, right? Like, it just really, for Strange Darling, it really felt right to tell it in that order. In fact, there was no other way that it could work. For those of you who've seen it, it came to me in that order, and I knew that had to be it. And there was a moment where the studio executive hired an editor without my knowledge and put it in order because they thought it would be impossible to understand. And I'm so glad that a test screening saved us, and it ended up, back out of order because it had to be told that way. This, to me, I felt like really, I didn't want to distract from the power of the novel, and we really, the main difference I think here is it's in the book, but there's lots of ensemble things going on. The book is more of a Robert Altman movie, right? And this becomes more of a it's got an ensemble cast, but it becomes the focus. We wanted to laser focus on the central love story, the two friends, McFreeze and Garrity, and so in really laser focusing on their relationship and their love for each other, and them learning how to put somebody else ahead of themselves. That sort of made it, and I didn't want to create some kind of, there was no reason to create some kind of out of sequence, gimmicky narrative. It's a very simple story of love between two people and the relationships that they make along the way.
I also love, I feel like we see an increased relationship with Ray and his mother. That whole story, and again, talk about getting great actors. Judy Greer, and can just show up for a couple scenes and just blow you away. Did you know who you were writing for at the time, or?
No idea.
Wow.
No idea. I had nothing to do with casting this movie. I wish I could take even an ounce of credit. And some of the cast, I actually, when Francis would call me and say, "This is who we're casting in this role," some of the cast, I was like, "Really?" Like, I don't,
Really?
like, they're older than I thought, or they're younger than I thought, or they're not the type I thought they'd be. And once I sat down with everybody at the table read, I knew that, like, that Francis and Rich D'Elia were geniuses. Like, I really felt like every character, every cast member captured the essence of what we'd written in such a profound way. And so, I had no idea it was going to be Judy, and I didn't meet Judy till we were on set. I've always been a fan, and it was, I get to see her tomorrow night for the first time in a long time. But she's one of the most amazing people, and just shows up on set, jokes around, like, just doesn't, like, and then the minute action is called, she just shifts, and it was really heartbreaking what she did. I think,
So you were on set. I'm curious. Sometimes when you're making movies as serious and dark as this, which is not to say it doesn't have humor, because it does. So those are sometimes the funnest sets. What was the atmosphere like on set? Were they joking around, or?
It was a great atmosphere.
Yeah.
All the guys got to be really, really good friends in real life. So, spending time with them was really, it was a good time. It was inspiring. And Francis and Yo, who shot his movie, they have a line producer named Mika. Francis has a producing partner named Cameron. And they have this team they've been making movies with for so long. And being on set with them really was eye-opening for me, because it was so smooth and easy. People think about, movies have to be this struggle to make, and everything's always a challenge, and but Francis rejects that.
Yeah.
He's like, I love doing this, and it should be smooth, and it should be easy. And that's how his sets feel. And he gets through his day, and the actors do what they're supposed to do, and we go back to the hotel and have a glass of wine and dinner, and go back to work the next morning. And so it was the best vibe I've felt on a set that I've been on. And I got to be there for about 2 weeks of prep and 2 weeks of shooting, and then once they felt like the characters had their voices and we had pretty much our final script, I went home. But the table read was really valuable, because I was able to listen to all these lines that I'd written and hear them coming out of the characters' mouths, and some didn't work and some did, and I went back and did another draft, and it was I'm really happy I got to be there for part of the time, because I have heard that these days writers, and this is my first studio writing job, but I have heard that these days a lot of times the writing is all done remotely. But Francis wanted me there, which was really great.
That's really cool. We don't necessarily know when this film takes place. It has a very timeless feel to it, and I feel like this story has always been and probably will always be timely to some degree. But could you have any idea, like, how eerily relevant it would be to today, and did current events inform the adaptation at all?
We're getting in trouble. I mean, listen, we live in a very crazy world, and I think that the themes in this movie, like I said, I think that we were always focused mostly on the emotions, on the characters, and on this this story of love between people, and I think that's why, for people who the movie works for, I think that's why it works. But there's comments and observations about authoritarianism, about the worst, most bastardized and very hyperbolic versions of capitalism and where it can go to in improper hands, and also meaning of life, like where we were really toying with, like, Stephen King wrote it as a Vietnam allegory, but I saw it more as just like a Scrooge story. Like, at the end of Scrooge, this guy who spent his whole life just trying to acquire things realizes that all that mattered were the relationships. And I think that's, a lot of what this observes and says is that, you can spend this whole walk focused on the prize, but if you get it, all your friends are dead. And they all realize that in the end, the last few. My favorite scene is when they're on the train trestle, and these people who were so vitriolic to each other start to be really kind, and they're facing the end of life. And so yeah, the overall, I think any era, any decade, any country, sadly, in my lifetime and the people who lived before me, before that, these themes are always relevant, somewhere in some way. Hopefully someday they won't be, but they have been, and so it's unfortunate, but yeah, I think it speaks to a lot that people are thinking about right now.
I just got a great idea when you compared it to Scrooge. Let's tell everyone this is a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
And it would be a great time for them to go back and watch it again. I know it's streaming now, but it's also in some theaters in some places.
It does take place during Christmas, so it is a Christmas movie. No, it's weird. I mean, listen, I was so grateful to be writing for Lionsgate because they only do theatrical movies, and this got released wide. It did really, really well compared to its budget, especially for not having that one specific Tom Cruise in the movie or something. I mean, the movie performed really, really well, and the subject matter is so dark. We were really excited. And the great thing is it is still in theaters now. I keep looking it up, and it's still in a lot of theaters. I'm kind of bummed it's available to stream already, but I'm grateful that it was out in theaters for a few months before it was, and they actually extended that window longer than the average. So yeah, anybody that who hasn't seen it, if you liked it tonight, please ask him to go see it in the movie theater, because that's what Francis made it for.
Absolutely, and tell them also it's the best Stephen King adaptation this year, which is saying a lot because there's 20. So, and it really is fantastic. Thank you so much for being a great audience. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you all for sticking around.